Now it's time to start with the JavaScript part for the project. So for that we need to use the script.js file, but before that we need to actually comment out this particular color container code. So if I comment out, if I control save it, then you can see nothing will be visible to the screen except this particular h1 element, because we are going to generate this particular code by using the JavaScript. So coming back to the script.js, so first we need to get the reference to the container, which is this particular element. So I'm going to copy this here and come back to the script.js. So first I'm going to here create the variable of type constant. So here I'm going to use const, and then this is actually our container element. Alright, so this will be the name of the variable, and inside of that I will be using the document.query selector. So here we need to specify the type of the selector. So it is actually a class selector. So we also need to specify the dot and then the name of the selector. Then for creating these particular code by using the JavaScript, we need to here use the for loop. So I will be using here a for, then we need to specify the index of this particular for loop. So we are going to use here let, and then the index of the for loop, which is actually started with the 0. Then we need to actually here use the index smaller than 50. Now this 50 value is actually depends upon the number of tiles you want. So if you want here 30, then you just need to create here a 30 value, means you just need to specify here a 30. If you want to display only 5, then you can simply here specify the 5. So this value will determine how many tiles you want to display inside your project. So if I come back to our version of the application, and then we need to here increment the index counter, that is this one, index plus plus. Now inside of that we need to actually first create the variable. So it is like const, and then this will be the color container element, that is this particular one. This will be denoted as a color container element. Alright, so this will be initialized with the document.create element instead of like query selector, because we want to here create the element. So create element, and what we want to create, so we want to create here a division. So we need to specify here a div tag, that is this one. Now the color container is created, so we need to add the class to the color container element. So here we will be using the color container element dot class list. So this will be used, not children, like class list. So this is the class list. So we want to add a class list. So that is the reason we are going to here use the add, and then the class name. So it is like color container. Remember the name of this particular one, the color container. So this is the name. I will be using it here. Alright. So with these two lines of code, our division element will be created. Now under that particular division element, we want to create these two elements. Alright. So for that we need to here create the another const variable. So const, then it is actually a color code element, because we want to display the hexadecimal color code. So that is the reason I have named here color code element. Then again we need to use the document.create element, because we want to actually create the element. So that is why we are going to use the create element. So we want to create here a span element. Alright, so this is a span element. Now with this line of the code, we are actually initialize this creation of this span element to this color code element variable. Now with the use of that, we need to add here a color code. Like if I come back to the index.html, you can see right now inside of this span there is no class list is actually specified, but for providing the style, means for accessing and providing the code, we need to add here a color code to that particular span element. Okay, so that is necessary because I have just added these two things just for the testing purpose, but in the real part, once we actually developing this, we want to actually update this code dynamically, because this will be updated multiple times depending upon the value of this particular inside the for loop. This particular value, it will generate different color code. So that is the reason we need to add a class to this span element, so that we can update its value multiple times, because we can use that class selector to update its value. So here we need to add the color code element, and then we need to here use the class list, because we want to add the class to this particular element. Alright, and inside of that we need to add the color, which is the color code. Alright, and then we need to after specifying the color code, we need to actually create this particular hierarchy structure. So that is the reason we need to add this inside this particular color container. So for that we need to use the append child function. So here we need to again use the color code, which is the color container element, that is this one, not color code. We need to use the color code, color container element, not color code. So color container element append child, we are going to use the append child. So what we want to append? So we want to append the color code element. So inside of the brackets, we need to provide the color code element. Now this particular color code will be appended to this particular division tag. Alright. So these 3 lines of the code done what? It's actually creating this span element, then we are setting the class to this span element, and then we are going to append that particular color code span element to the main color container element. Alright. Then similar thing we need to perform with the button as well, because we want a button. So again, coming back to script.js, we need to here use the const, and then we need to here use the copy button element, and we need to initialize it with the document dot create element, that is this one, and instead of that we need to specify the button, that is this one, button, and then inside of that we need to use the copy button element dot inner text. So we want to update the button inner text is equal to, and then we need to add here copy. Alright, and then inside of the color container element, that is the main element, because we want to append that button inside this particular division. So again we are going to use the here color container dot append child function, not append, just append child, because we want to append this as a child. So we need to here specify the copy button element. So now we have created this particular structure by using the JavaScript. So coming back to the script.js, and after that here append this entire thing inside the main container, that is this one, the main container. So here we need to add the color container, means the container element, not color container, main container element append child function. Again we are going to call the append child, and inside of that what we want to contain, it's actually a color container, because inside of that we have the button and also the span element. So here we will be adding the color container element. So whatever we have created right now, you can see we get our 50 color container elements. You can see here, because we have appended all of these values. Now if I want to just display only 5, I can control save it, then you can see I get only 5 color elements, means the 5 color containers. Okay, so this is how we have created the code by using the JavaScript dynamically. So the next step is we need to actually randomize the colors of these color tiles, and also we want to display the color code inside of this particular span element. So for that we need to here create the function. So function, then we need to here call the random color function. Now this particular function will be used inside the another function, which is actually a generate color function. But before creating the generate color function, we need to actually complete the code for the random color function, because this is the main function that will be randomize the color, and inside of the generate color function we are going to use this particular function. Now inside of the random color function, first we need to here create the characters. So what I want to do here, like const, then here we going to add the chars, means the characters that we want inside our color code. So we actually want to display these particular characters, because the hexadecimal is actually started from 0, and then it's actually go up to like f, like it has only 16 characters. So these are the characters. Okay, and then we need to actually specify the length of the character. So again we need to here create the const, which is const, then we need to here create the color code, and then length is equal to 6, because maximum hexadecimal character has only 6 characters including the hash symbol. Then we need to create here another variable, which is let color code, because this value will be updated multiple times. So that is the reason we need to here specify the color code. And to randomize the thing, we need to here use the for loop. So for loop, and inside of that we need to here use the let index is equal to 0, because the for loop will be started from 0. Then index is going to smaller than according to the length of the color, means the color code length. We have specified this 6, so this loop will be executed only for the 6 times. And then we need to here use the index, which is index variable, then we need to increment its value, and after that we need to come inside the for loop. So here we need to create the another variable which is const random number. So here we need to use the random num, which is short for the random number, and then we need to use the math dot floor, and inside of the math dot floor we need to use the math dot random, and then we need to multiply its value with the value of the chars dot length, that is this particular one, right? So we will get the random number inside of this particular one, and then after that we need to here use the color code, and we are going to here use the short syntax property, which is also to initialize and also add the value to the color code variable. So we are going to use their chars dot substring method. So substring, and then we need to pass here the random, that is this one random number, and then we need to pass here random num plus 1. So substring function does what? It's actually a method of the JavaScript, or I can say that the function of the JavaScript, but it is more suitable to actually say it as a method of the JavaScript. So it is actually used to extract the portion of a string. It basically takes the two arguments, the starting index and the ending index, which is actually an exclusive part. So from the value of the start index, it's going to extract the string. Alright. So basically it's going to extract the string and gives you a new string. So what I mean, if we take the example of this color code length as a string, okay, so if I copy that here and if I copy and paste it here, so if I just specify a starting index here like 5, alright, 5 comma 9, just I want to do that, or I can just simply specify 5 comma 9. So it's going to give us what? So it's going to give me the like this particular string, because from here it's going to like 6 7 8 9, so it's going to give me a code value. Just it is not very difficult to learn, you can simply Google it, you will get the information about this substring. Now coming back to the our version of the code, that is this particular application, which is the random hex color tile generator application. Inside of this random color function, we want to return a value. So we want to return a color code. So return after the end of the loop, we are going to return the color code. So here coming back to the, then we want to return the color code. Now this particular function will be used inside the generate color function. So here we need to use the generate color function. Now we need to create this particular function. So here we need to use the function generate color, then we need to start its block of the code. Now before adding the code inside this particular generate color function, we want to also create the main container, which is the main container elements that has the reference to this particular color container, because we have created the color container by using the for loop, that is this one. Now we need to initialize this color container into the variable globally, so that we can create these multiple color containers. So here we need to create another const, then this will be the main, like I will be here using the main color container elements. This is going to be equal to document dot query selector. So query selector, then we want to specify the type of the selector. So it is actually a class selector, so we need to specify the dot, and then we need to specify the name of the selector, which is the color container selector. So now we have the reference to all of the color container inside this main color container elements variable. Now by using this particular variable, we can actually start the code inside this particular generate color function. So here we need to use the for loop, not font face, we are going to use here a for loop, and then to start the block of the for loop. So let I is equal to 0, because we want to start the index from the 0, then I is smaller than main color container value. So these particular main containers elements dot length, so according to the value of this particular length, we want to run the loop, and then we want to increment the value of the I variable, which is actually used as a counter variable for the for loop. Then inside of that, we want to first create the const variable. So this will be the color color container element, that is this one, color container is equal to, and here we need to actually specify the main color container elements I variable value. Then to here create the another const variable, then this is actually a new color code, and here we need to call the random color function. Remember, that is the reason we have created the random color function already. So this will be give us a random color code, and that code will be given to this new color code variable. Alright, and after that we need to create here another variable const, this is a color code element, and then inside of that we need to use the color container element, that is the variable name of this one. Right, color container element dot query selector. So here we need to use the query selector. Inside of that we need to specify the color code class dot, and here we need to specify the color code. Alright, the color code is actually the class name for this particular span element. Alright, so we are specify here a color code selector, and after that we want to update the style. So we want to update the style for this color container element. So here we want to use the color container element. So we want to update its style. So it's like style dot background color, style dot background color is equal to, so we want to actually append the hash symbol as well. So it's like hash character. Then we want to add the new color code, which will be given by the random color function. And then we want to update the color code element. Here we want to use the color code element inner text, because we want to display the inner text. Inner text is equal to, again we need to use the hash symbol because we want to display the hash character as well. And then you need to use the new color code. If I control save it, right now you can see nothing will be happen. So nothing is happening. If I control save it, the color should change, but there should be a problem in the code. So we had just simply created the elements by using this for loop, then we have randomized the color, and then we created the generate color function. We are calling the function, we are actually using the main container elements document.query. So here actually having a problem. We need to here use the query selector all, because this is actually more than once. So now you can see we have successfully able to randomize the colors. So right now we are actually only seeing the 5 elements. So if we want to add here more than 5, then need to specify the value 50. If I enter here like 500, then we will get the 500 random color tiles. You can see here at in front of your screen. So I'm just going to here do just only with the 30, right? Control save it. So you can see now we get the 30 color tiles. So this is actually also, I want to share one more property. If I didn't use here a flex wrap, then you can see it's actually going in just only one line. So that is the reason you need to use the flex wrap inside the container. Okay, so that everything will be presented in the nice way. Now the next thing that we want to add is actually the copy functionality. So whenever we click on the copy button, we want to copy this particular code to the clipboard. Just like in the final version, if we click on copy, we actually show an alert. Instead of that, we see the color code, this particular message along with the color code value, and then we click OK, come back to here, and if I paste it, then you can see the new color code will be pasted and can be used in anywhere inside of your application. So let's start adding this particular copy functionality. So for that we need to traverse all of these as a array, because these are more than 30, means 30, 40. So the better approach is we need to use the for each method to actually loop through all of these elements. So here I will be coming back to the script.js, then here I will be adding main color container.element, then for each. Instead of the for each, I need to specify the anonymous callback that takes an argument, which is the color container element. So color container, not container, it's going to like color container element, that is color container el. So it is going to type of arrow function. Then we need to start its block of the code, which is the body. And inside of that, first we need to create these two variables so that we can work with these two elements. So the first thing is we need to create the const, which is the copy button element, copy btn element. So now we need to use this particular argument. So this is the color container el dot, then we need to use the query selector. Now it is actually a single, so that is the reason we need to select the query selector here. Instead of that, we want to specify the button because we want to select the button from these particular containers. Second variable we need to create here, second variable, which is the color code. You can see color code element. Again we need to use the color container, not container, it's like color container element query selector. Instead of that, we need to specify this type of the selector, so it is like color code selector. All right, if I control save it, so the page will be refreshed. So every time we refresh, we get different colors. All right, and here we need to set the listener to the copy button. So copy button, and we need to set the add event listener. And instead of this particular one, we need to listen to the click listener. And here we need to specify the arrow function. And inside of that, we need to first create the const variable, so which is actually a color code. Color code is equal to, so we want to get the value from the color code element dot inner text. We want its inner text, and then we need to pass that inner text to the copy clipboard function. This function will be created, so inside of that we need to pass the color code. Alright, now we need to create this particular function. So coming back to the outside of this particular for each block, so here we need to create the function which is copy clipboard, not copy button, copy clipboard function. Now this function is going to accept a one parameter, so that will be treated as a text. So I'm going to name the parameter as text. Then we need to use the navigator dot clipboard, and then we need to actually write the text inside the clipboard. So we need to use the write text, and here we need to pass the text, and then we need to here use the then, and instead of that we need to pass the arrow function, then the body of the code, and then we need to actually here specify the alert. Then here to specify the colon, and then the value of the variable that we want to display, which is the text. Alright, so this is the navigator. Then for the error catching, here we need to specify the catch block if anything goes wrong, so that we will get the error. So here we need to specify the another anonymous callback, means the function that has no name, error, the name of the argument, then the arrow function, then we need to start its block of the code. Instead of that, we need to use the console.log, then to start its body. Inside the console.log, we need to here use the field to copy to clipboard, field to copy clipboard, and then we need to specify the error. Control save it. Now if I click on copy, you can see we get the alert pop-up, copy to clipboard. And if I copy, means click on OK and come back to the next tab, paste it. Then you can see we are successfully able to paste the code because the code is copied to the clipboard. Now if I refresh, then you can see this color I want to copy. You can see this color code is copied to clipboard. If I come back here and paste the code, you can see finally we are able to get the copied code. So that marks the completion of the code for this random hex tile color generator application. Now if you like this module, then leave your review, because your review definitely going to help me to reach more students and also helps me and motivates me to create more awesome courses like this. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you very much.